In earlier courses with Access, we looked at creating a query to filter out records that were required in a report. We're going to create something a little bit more advanced because we need to create a report that has fields from a number of tables and also includes a calculation. So we first of all are going to build a query. Now, to build a query, we go to Create on the ribbon bar. In the queries, we're not going to use the wizard, we're going to say Query Design. This brings up a table box asking us which tables we want. Now, we do want the customers. Now, you can double click on these and this will add the table to the query. We also want the order details and we want the orders. We can close this box. Now, that gives us these three tables and we'll just arrange these so you can see the content. Now, because this database is a relational database, you can see the relationships between these three tables has already been created. Now we need to pick out some fields to add to our query grid at the bottom here. Remember, the quickest way is to double click on a field. Now, from the customers table, we only need one field, the company name. And if I double click, it puts it into the first column of the query grid. We then want a couple of fields from the orders table, namely order ID and the order date. From the third table, order details, we want the quantity field. We also want the product ID and we want the unit price. Now, before doing anything, we'll take a look at the data this retrieves just by viewing the query. And we can do that up in the top left to view the data sheet. And here we can see that we have all the data that's required. Now, if we have a look over here, the unit price is how much a particular item that they're buying is. For example, this person here has bought 15 of these items at £45.60 each. Now, we need to know the total of that order value by adding an extra column where we can do the calculation. We go back to our design view, clicking up in the top left. We want to create a new field to store the answer and work out the answer. So we click in the final column. Now, although we could type what we require in here, you can zoom in onto this. And you do this by right clicking your mouse and going down to zoom. And this will show you an enlarged version of that cell here. So what we need to do is to give our field a name. So we'll call this value, and then you specify that it's a field name by the colon. We then want to tell it how to work out the total value of the order. Well, this will be a simple calculation of the quantity multiplied by the unit price. So we need those two fields. Now we type a field name in square brackets. So we type in quantity. Now, although the field name is not case sensitive, you must spell it exactly as it appears in the table, quantity. Multiplied, that's the asterisk key, by the unit price. So we do an open bracket, that's a square open bracket, and unit price. We can OK this, and that will put that in here. Now we can format this as well. If you click on the field that you've just typed, you'll see the properties come up here. Now if this property sheet isn't there, you can right click over the word value and go down to properties, and that will pop up the property sheet. And on here you can see there's a format property, and we can change this to currency. If we now view this in the data sheet view, you can see we have a column called value which has the calculation in there. You can perform various calculations in a query as you would in something like Excel. We're going to save this and use this in a report. Now, one other thing we want to do with this query is you'll notice in this column here we have all of the order dates. Now sometimes when we see a report later on, we want people to choose the range of dates from a particular date to another date. And we can do that by creating what's known as a parameter query on here. And to do a parameter query, we click on the design view, find which column we want the criteria. Now normally here under order date, we would usually just type in the date that we want or the range of dates. If I zoom into this criteria cell by right clicking and zoom, we will type in between. Now we want the user to specify a start date. Because we don't know the date, normally you would be putting something like this, but because we don't know the date and that we want the end user to choose a date, what we do, a parameter query, we write a question in square brackets, such as enter start date, space, and space, and now we want the end date, so in square brackets we can type enter end date, close square bracket. If you read this out, it's can you enter a date between, or can you display the dates between the 1st of January and the 2nd of February. That's what we hope to achieve. Click OK. That puts it down here. If I was to test this now and go to view it, it comes up with a box asking me to enter in a start date. And I can enter in a very simple date on here. Now because this is an old database, we're typing something like the 1st of the 5th, 97, enter that, and then it asks us for an end date, so I might do the 25th of the 5th, 97, enter that. And now you can see I have a list of dates for May up to the 25th. This query is completed. We can close this and save it, and we'll call this query for our report. And there you can see it's the query. Now we never intend running this on its own. In the next exercise we'll look at creating a report based on that query.